Welcome to the Midwest Dynasty Football Podcast. This is Sam Bellin with you, and I'm here with Tom. Christian McCaffrey is Dust Brumba, and Cody Meatball Hollow.
Meatball.
How's it going, guys?
It's going really well. I'm really happy to start our first podcast for the first time in a long time now.
Yeah, this is a much improved podcast room. It's like a podcast basement.
Wow, I think I might take offense to that. I had a whole room of my apartment dedicated to podcasts.
I liked it. I like this more.
It's just that he didn't like you, Sam. That's the
difference. Good point.
He just didn't want to admit it.
Good point.
That's fair. That's fair. And for everyone that can see in the background here, there's about a 120-inch screen TV. I think we should have a live showing of the first podcast.
No, there we go.
Everyone comes over and watches us.
Oh,
talk.
yeah. That'd be great. Can we stay upstairs, though, so we don't have to watch it?
Yeah,
I don't want to look at myself.
That would be
Speak
pretty
for
brutal.
yourself.
I am.
Oh, okay. And we're watching you do it. Live at
Unfortunately, I know.
1080p.
This is what I look like.
This is so meta. Holy crap. All right. So first things first today, going through the Sleeper League, huh? Week 2. I know we already missed a week, but that happens in the COVID season. First matchup we got, at least on my list, is me and Laramie, actually. I know a pretty big matchup, a lot of surprises in that one. What do you guys think?
Well, not really any surprises. You won pretty handily as normal, scoring 200-plus points. It makes me question how many 200-plus point weeks are you going to have this season? Are you going for the full sweep?
Yeah, I think I'm going to go for 12. At least 12 in the regular season.
Oh, and then the playoffs crumble like you always do?
I'm going for 300 in playoffs.
I like it.
I know. You got over even a good week from Matt Ryan. I mean, or like, you know, on Laramie's team at least. Where
That's
he had 30
true.
points.
Yeah, he had a big week, and surprisingly, Julio had a very small week, and I know he's kind of injured. Do you guys weigh into that at all?
He was hobbling all game. He had a hamstring thing that was going on. So Calvin Ridley looks like the clear number 2 in that offense, and he's number 1 if Julio's out. But also Russell Gage is kind of stepping up as a very relevant wide receiver 3.
Yeah, I agree. Didn't Hayden Hurst catch his first touchdown of the year too?
Yeah.
Like, I wonder if they'll start going to him a little bit more. Well, if Julio stays kind of hobbling and whatever, but I mean, he was just used as a decoy, and Julio's a great decoy, and Calvin Ridley's going to be the one to benefit from that every single time.
Yep, he sure is. Seems like he catches all the touchdowns, and Julio gets just about nothing. So
Every time he's even open in the end zone, Matt Ryan just misses him. It actually happens all the time. I don't understand why. But.
Yep, very true. And I know McCaffrey had a pretty decent week for me this week, but how do you guys view that going forward?
Well, Mike Davis is the man now, allegedly. And he's pretty much strictly receiving running back, it seems like. He can't really run through the tackles. So, I mean, he was that way in Chicago, too. He was just like swinging out to him and Tariq Cohen, and now it's really only him. So who's the third guy? And is he worth watching at all? Do you guys know?
They used to have on the practice squad, who used to be the backup-ish, was Reggie Bonifon. But I don't know if he's still on the practice squad or if he got called up from it yet. As of right now, I haven't seen any news on that.
I heard he was supposed to get called up, but
Okay.
do you guys think he'll get more of the first and second down carries and then Mike Davis with the third down? I know Mike Davis had 8 catches last week after CMC went out.
And
so,
1 rush.
Yeah,
it's pretty crazy.
it'll be interesting because how many carries did he have? Do you know?
I think 1. I think
Just
1 for 1
Just only
yard.
one?
Yeah.
What, I mean, because McCaffrey got injured, I think, in the third
quarter. Yeah.
So maybe that's also why, to a certain extent, they were trying to come back against Tampa Bay. But I don't know. Reggie Bonifon did fine when he filled in a couple carries for McCaffrey last year. So I could see them giving him a chance. That's who they always liked, and I mean, they re-signed him again this year. Obviously, they brought in Davis as the backup, but maybe it'll be like a committee type thing. I could see that too.
Yeah, I could definitely see that as well.
I think that's what we're kind of finding this year in general with COVID injuries is that these players are getting hurt, and then teams are really just realizing how important it is to have a committee in general. And so even more than past years, people are just going towards committees, and when their bell cow gets hurt, it's just going to be a shit running back field. So having studs is even more important.
Yeah, for fantasy especially.
So do you start either one of these guys next week or going in the forward in the future?
Personally, I'd give it a week just to kind of see how that lines up. I mean, if Mike Davis comes back out and gets 10 catches, then sure, I'll start him. But until then, you don't really know what's going to happen. So at least on Sleeper, it says Bonifon's third.
Oh, okay.
And there is something that says he's supposed to be called up from the practice squad, but who really knows? Obviously, if he's on the practice squad, they don't think that highly of him in the first place. But
yeah.
Oh.
Well, more information later this week.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Next Tuesday.
Next Tuesday, we'll know.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Other than that, I'd say the only other big surprise on my team so far this year has been Russell Wilson. How do you guys think he's going to do going forward? I believe he's the first or second best quarterback so far. Yeah, number one player so far this season. I mean, do you think he continues it, or does he fall off a little bit?
I mean, he's still Russell Wilson, and he's pretty clearly the leading MVP currently. I mean, it's only after week 2, but I don't think there's much to report on him. He still gets it seems like 3 to 5 carries a game, sometimes a rushing touchdown, but he's just a dynamic player that can really stretch the offense with his legs, being able to scramble. And he's got some solid weapons with DK Metcalf stepping up too.
Yeah, I think he drops down a little bit. I think these two teams that he went against are just shootout teams, like New England and especially Atlanta in week 1. They're just both going to put a ton of points up on the board, and their defenses. I mean, New England's was good, so I'm actually surprised a little bit they scored that much. But I think next week against Dallas, I think he does similar stats as he's done the first 2 weeks. But then once he gets against like Miami, Minnesota, maybe Arizona, he does it, but later on, I think he starts to kind of fall off a little bit, but I think next week he still does it.
Sure. I'm crossing my fingers for it. And on Laramie's team, what do you guys think? Any big surprises? I know Montgomery had a pretty big week. I know people don't really know what to expect of him this year, but
I thought he looked really good. I actually did get a chance to watch part of that game, both highlights and live, and with my NFL Sunday ticket that I've been streaming, stolen from my dad. But no, I think he's clearly the back to own in the backfield, and that they're really starting to amp him up in year 2. And Tariq Cohen he's not a big part of that offense anymore. It's kind of sad, honestly. They signed him to a decent contract too. I'm a bit surprised.
Yeah, I forget when they signed him to that. If that was 2 years, I think that was after his really good season, right? Like 2 years ago, or
I thought it was this year actually.
This year?
Because I think it was kind of a slap in the face to Allen Robinson that they didn't sign him, who is, in my opinion, clearly a better player than Tariq.
No, obviously, yeah, it's not even close. I'd say the guy that I really liked on Laramie's team to see this week was Jared Goff. I think Jared Goff had a really good bounce back game. That offensive scheme looked just like it did when they were really good, like a year or 2 years ago. And it seemed like Sean McVay actually got very creative with him and got him out of the pocket and rolling around. And I think if he's able to have, his targets to, Cooper Kupp, Robert Woods, and then even this last week, he used Van Jefferson a lot too. Oh, and Tyler Higbee.
Tyler Higbee, just a
Tyler
bit.
Higbee in the Higbee in the red zone. But I mean, I know like Jefferson had like 4 receptions for like 30 or 40 yards. So it's like if he gets everybody involved like this and gets them out of the pocket, I don't know. I think he could kind of come back a little bit.
Yeah, I agree. I think that team's looking for a bounce back year, especially with their good running back by committee getting Akers on that team as
Holy
well.
crap!
Yeah,
but the funny thing is, I'm glad you brought that up because fantasy-wise, I don't want any of those running backs.
Oh, for sure not this year. I think
Malcolm Brown, Henderson, and Akers are very solid, dynamic players, and they're just going to keep committing them. So
that's like the biggest takeaway I've had from this season so far is that there's like 4 teams like that where I feel the same exact way. The Lions are one of those teams. New England's one of those teams. It's just I don't want anything to do with any of those guys.
Yeah, I mean, I think New England has one clear running back, and it's Cam Newton.
Oh, yes. Yeah,
one clear goal line running back, that's for sure.
No kidding.
Yep. I guess final points on that. After that week, I am 2-0, and Laramie fell to 0-2, but should have a little bit of an easier matchup next week, hopefully. Next matchup I have on my list is Tom Brumba versus Eric Barber, and Tom won 173 to 144. Both teams ended up at 1-1. Key takeaways from this game, guys. Anything specifically stand out? It looks pretty chalk to me.
Yeah, Tom Brady does not look like a fantasy quarterback. Even though he did have a couple drop touchdowns, he's still just like he it's not like the Buccaneers offense improving means that Tom Brady's improving as a fantasy asset.
Yeah, feeding in a little bit to what we just came off of before. For Sony Michel on his team, I don't even know if he's a startable asset. I truthfully just he's not getting any carries. He's not that guy he was a couple of years ago.
And he's not going to get any touchdowns.
No, and never. I know. I 100% agree with you. He won't. It's
so he's like RB4, honestly.
Yeah, I'm willing to throw him down there pretty far. I mean,
I agree.
It's really unfortunate, but
yeah, it's especially looking at his team because he really doesn't have a backup. So you're talking about his main running back is going to be Kareem Hunt, who isn't even a starter. But
yeah, that's tough. But maybe an opportunity for a position to fill if he wants to.
Yeah, which is funny because when Michelle goes down on his team, Hunt actually is a very relevant part of that offense. They're an example of not a committee where it's just a 2 split back between Hunt and Chubb, which is arguably the strongest running back core in the NFL.
Yeah.
Just those two.
Also, I do want to point out he does have Devonta Freeman on his bench, who is reportedly going to be signing a deal with the Giants. So if that happens, that he could probably move him up to be a starting running back.
That's a good point. Yeah, that timing almost couldn't work out better for him.
No kidding.
I will make a prediction that he won't. I think he'll be an RB3 though. I agree it's an improvement from Michelle.
Yeah.
But not much of one.
I think it depends on how they utilize him. I think their line is obviously terrible, but I mean, if he gets 20 touches a game, he'll be fine. So
yeah, if he does, I'd be surprised if he does. I guess
depends on how they use him too. Because I mean, the way they even use Dion Lewis became a fantasy relevant running back now. But
he's the same as Mike Davis.
Yeah, exactly.
So.
Yep. So looking through Tom's team here, we got Lamar Jackson, fine game. Zeke, fine game. Tyreek, good game. Let's go to the real surprise, in my opinion, of the entire season so far is Cam Newton, through 2 weeks, has 4 rushing touchdowns. How do you value this guy going forward? I mean, he's not that old, but he's obviously getting utilized in the rushing game a ton.
I promise this isn't tongue-in-cheek. He is a top 10 quarterback, almost definitely. Like I mean, that's at least bar minimum. I think he actually could finish as a top 5 quarterback. I'm not saying he will. But because he is actually throwing, he was 30 for 44 with 397 yards. He can throw. He's their goal line running back. His floor is incredibly low because he's the goal line running back. And he actually does not look like his shoulder matters at all. Like he's whipping balls right now. Surprise this season, I agree.
Yeah, no, I honestly, top 10, I'll give you at this point. I think, honestly, solely because of the way they're using him in the rushing game. I mean, looking at his stats from the last 2 weeks, 15 carries and 11 carries for about 130 yards total and 4 touchdowns, like I said. Not even Baltimore chalks up that many designed run plays for their QB, especially at the goal line. Like you can't really reproduce that from anyone, even if he doesn't throw, which obviously he did well this game.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. No, unfortunately, I think this is a bet I'm going to lose, and I'm very comfortable losing this bet if he's going to get that type of utilization from this team. I think that just is what it is.
He just went to the perfect team. Yeah. I mean, that was, and I said that, and you were still like, no, he's still not gonna be top 10.
Well, I mean, 2020 hindsight, right? But I still think, I mean, if he didn't get utilized in the running attack the way that he was, I actually don't think he would be. I think he's clearly
of course not.
I mean, four rushing touchdowns help very much to make.
And that's not gonna be consistent. He's not gonna finish with 32 I guess.
Does he finish with 16?
Yeah, I mean, what was his MVP season? Probably around there.
I believe he had 15 or 16 his rookie season.
Oh, but not his MVP.
I think his MVP season he threw a lot more, so I didn't think he had as many rushing touchdowns. But yeah, no, I mean, for sure, props to you for making that pick. 'Cause I know he fell pretty far in that draft this year, and I mean, honestly, props to Bill Belichick too, because he's obviously found out a way to unleash him that even Carolina didn't do throughout the last few years. So yeah, it'll be interesting to watch going forward because that team. The offense specifically doesn't really have any good weapons other than him. So.
It will be interesting to see if he can stay healthy. That's the only concern I have.
100%.
That's a lot of carries for a quarterback.
I agree.
Yep, I agree. Barber's team, looking through, obviously we talked about Tom Brady, so and Michelle, 2 really big hits. Devonta Adams, definitely hit or miss over the last 2 weeks, going from 45 points to 7 points. Any cause for concern there? Only 3 targets, dropping from 17.
I watched the game as a Lions fan, and he was actually injured as well. He was very similar to who were we just talking about that had the hammy? Yeah, Julio. Except for Julio was playing, they just cut Devontae once they went up by like 14. And to be honest, Devontae is not. I'm not concerned. To answer your question, I'm not concerned at all. He looked stellar at the line. He was blowing by Okuda, which I think might be more saying negative against Okuda as a rookie. It was his first start because he didn't play week 1. But yeah, no, he looked incredible. I'm not concerned at all. When he's on the team, he's their wide receiver 1 by far because Lazard and MVS are not that great. They're just using MVS as a deep threat. Yeah. So.
Yeah, I 100% agree. He still has the best moves at the line of scrimmage. Like he can break away from any cornerback that's doing press coverage on him. He's so good.
He's the best Green Bay wide receiver since. I mean, with all the historically good wide receivers they had, like Javon Walker, Greg Jennings.
Probably Donald Driver, I would say.
And Driver. I would even say Devontae Adams is better than him. Like,
yeah. I agree.
Jordy Nelson, too.
Yeah, Jordy Nelson.
I think he's the most talented wide receiver Green Bay's ever had.
Yep.
This is my feeling.
Yeah, I can't think back more than 20 years, but for sure in the last 20 years.
Yeah, unless there's some guy with Bart Starr that I haven't heard about.
Yeah.
Yeah, so when healthy, Devontae Adams is a top 5 receiver.
Mm-hmm. Sure. Yeah, he's certainly elite, and I know he was the only wide receiver I've ever seen taken ahead of Michael Thomas in drafts this year. Rarely, but sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
Other than that, I think the only major surprise on Barber's team is CD Lamb has actually been getting a significant amount of targets, which people are kind of surprised about just with the other wide receivers on that team. How do you guys view him going forward?
I just really like that whole passing offense. I think it's so funny how antiquated people are. Like every time I listen to casual people talk about the NFL and they watch Dak Prescott, they say, "Oh, Dak's not even that good." I want to correct them every time. They're wrong. Dak is a good quarterback. Now, keep in mind he has 3 incredibly talented wide receivers at disposal, but I don't know. They're through 2 games. They've had some very easy ball spreading between the 3 of them, that being Lamb, Gallup, and Cooper. And I think Lamb's going to be a wide receiver 3 moving forward.
Yeah, I think so too. I don't know. I think I got to look at Michael Gallup's stats here quickly, but I think he's going to overtake him as the number 2 wide receiver option on that team. I think he's clearly more talented. I mean, he already gets a ton more targets than Gallup. I mean, Gallup's gotten 10 targets this year. I think CeeDee Lamb's gotten 15, so almost 33% more. I think he's going to continue to get it. He looks better, more talented, and the way he can actually just his yak is very, very good. He's super talented. I mean, will he go down as the top rookie this year that's not a quarterback? Because right now I think he's probably the number 1.
Ruggs is up there
in
too.
what regard? A wide receiver specifically?
I suppose there's Clyde Edwards-Helaire
And
Jonathan Taylor.
Both
I
top
forgot.
10 RBs.
Sure, but maybe then wide receiver though. I think he's number 1 right now. Ruggs didn't do anything this last game.
Yeah, yes, but
I think it's reasonable, yeah.
And considering Justin Jefferson is being thrown to by Kirk Cousins.
Yeah, that has not been great.
Just not a lot of targets.
Also, Jerry Jeudy doesn't have anyone anymore either. So.
Well, Jerry Jeudy could really step up now with Cortland Sutton. Keep in mind.
He could, but they have no passing game.
With Jeff Driscoll, the Lions RB5 last year.
That's actually funny because Jeudy did better once Driscoll came into the game this last day.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see. I mean, he's clearly
and so did Noah
Fant.
Fant.
Mm-hmm. Well, Fant's been just really good with Locke too, but yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. I do want to point out before we move on, I think just for my team, the only interesting thing other than what we talked about was Ronald Jones. And I think it's very clear. And most people have been saying this, so this isn't a hot take. This is more of a report that Leonard Fournette is now the RB1 on that team. And I think he's going to finish top 20 at least. I could see him finishing top 15.
For Leonard
Fournette.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
Especially the way he looked, even in the first game. He looked really good.
I honestly don't know if I completely agree with that. I mean, the coaches reiterated a bunch of times that Ronald Jones is still their number 1 guy. Obviously, it'll be by committee, and I think they'll both be fine. I don't know if I'd put Leonard at top 20. He had a really good game, but what did he have, a 65-yard run or something? 70-yard run?
Well, no, he actually didn't. He had 3 long runs.
Okay. So
that's what it was, which was more encouraging. The logic behind it is that it seems as though they've been trying to, they might have been just riding the hot hand, so I agree with you. Because what happened was Jones fumbled. And then since Jones fumbled, Fournette had 68% of the carries versus, or just the touches or whatever, snaps. So I agree with you. It's entirely dependent with how they want to split the carries.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's going to be plenty of carries to go around, and I think they're both fine dynasty assets, honestly. It's just, it'll be, hopefully for your team, they just go to one player more so than the other. But yeah, so going forward, are you going to start Leonard Fournette then next week?
I will next week, yeah.
Okay.
Seems reasonable to me.
Yep. All right, so that's all the games for that division. After the first 2 weeks, it has my team at 2-0, Tom and Barber at 1-1, and then Larry me bringing it up at 0-2. Going on to the next division, I had Jake and Mike this week, with Jake at 148 and Mike at 120. So this is a much more low-scoring game than the previous 2 matchups we talked about. Anything jump out to you guys in this matchup?
What point do you need to be a little bit cause for concern for Daniel Jones? He's currently ranked by Fantasy Pros as the 11th best dynasty quarterback.
Whoa, really?
Yep.
That's way too high.
Yeah, do you want my read on that? I've been concerned of him since he was drafted 6 overall. He's not a good quarterback, and he's proving it. He looks like a rookie again, and it's week 2. It's week 18 for him.
I do think, half that's their line, though.
Yes.
He played Pittsburgh, who in my opinion is pretty clearly the best defense, and they held Saquon to 15 rushes for 7 yards or something ridiculous like that, and that's Saquon. We all agree Saquon's elite, right? He's had 2 pretty tough matchups, in Chicago. I didn't even realize, them too. I don't know. I'm not that concerned about him, but
I think he's just going to be Eli Manning for the rest of his career.
so have a very good fantasy career.
Did Eli Manning really have that successful of a career?
Played for 20 years, or 15 years.
Oh, that's what you mean.
But
he's like, for 20 years, he's going to be a top 20 quarterback.
Yeah, top 15 or 20. Yeah, I don't think he'll be like top 10 most seasons, but
If
I mean,
any.
for Superflex, though, you don't need that.
True.
Right.
That's a good point. That's a very good point.
But I don't know. I guess, Cody, looking at the list, who else would you take over him? I'll look it up right now.
So I'm looking at it right now. It's really funny. So the next person below him is Baker Mayfield, which I can't honestly say that I would take Baker over him. Baker's had issues. I don't know. I don't really trust Baker at all. Tua is, I think, just having to be put at 12 right now because we haven't seen him play a game. The number 12 spot is like the conservative pick of, okay, well, if he is bad, I can move him down my list easily, but if he's good, I can move him up really easily type placement. Matt Ryan's a little bit older in his career. I mean, it kind of makes sense to me. The arguments could be made. Maybe once you get down to Cam Newton, especially if Cam Newton's this good, I guess people haven't been very reactionary yet about moving him up.
No, of course not. Yeah,
which makes sense because it's only been 2 games.
He does have an injury history, though, too. And 31's not old, but for
I'm
his
a little
style,
bit
maybe a little
surprised
bit
maybe
old.
that Sam Darnold's at 17. But
He is not. I'm actually getting a lot lower on him.
Are
he
you?
really hasn't played well, and he hasn't
Yeah,
proven
I
anything.
agree.
But I mean, like, okay, how about players like Matt Stafford? I mean, he's not old and he's been consistently good.
I would put Stafford over Jones. I would put most of the guys you mentioned, actually.
Really?
Except for Darnold.
okay.
And maybe Baker. That's like very push to me, too.
Yeah, the Baker one's tough just because I know he had a great first year, but he's honestly not looked good at all.
I know. This is year 3 for him now.
With a plethora of weapons.
Oh, my God, yeah.
Oh, for sure. Yep.
It's insane.
Yeah. But I would put Tua over him because his ceiling to me is way more worth it.
I am inclined to agree with you. I think Tua will be better than him.
So to me, that puts Daniel Jones really more likely at QB 15 for Dynasty.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is where I would have thought he would be more around at this point in his career.
Another guy that wasn't mentioned that I would clearly take over him is Jared Goff.
Yes.
Yeah.
Who was at QB 15
Yep.
actually. So
Yeah.
I would.
So,
that one's
yeah.
not even.
So
close
low
to me.
end, like lower 20s, like you could even say
Yeah.
he's QB 18. Like,
Yep.
and I think he only has potential. I think he has a higher potential of dropping than actually getting higher.
Yeah.
And we talked about. Well, I guess we talked about Matt Ryan and Aaron Rodgers. If you're in a win now mode, I would definitely take those two over him as well.
Oh yeah, for sure. For sure.
But those-
now.
And
Those
even
are
Justin
dependent,
Herbert after this week.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. Can we talk about him?
Yeah.
300 yards, almost beating the Super Bowl champions.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
After a surprise start.
So I also watched this game. He looked incredibly poised. He can run reasonably well, and he made one rookie mistake that was egregious. And that's about it. But he just looked
not bad.
solid. They were really utilizing. So it was funny because he actually never took a non-shotgun snap in college. So they were basically running like 50% shotgun on him, and they were doing like slight hurry up. So they were just like, get in there, go play, make you a little bit more comfortable than what the NFL is typically like. And I liked him a lot. Like, I don't want to be overly reactionary. I'm really excited to watch him, though, because I can't imagine they're going to put Tyrod Taylor out there anymore.
Yeah. Well, they said they would if he's perfectly healthy, but yeah, right.
He looks. Yeah. I don't know why anybody liked him. I still don't. He wasn't good on Buffalo. He wasn't going to be good here.
Yep.
Like, if I'm in a dynasty, like, I'd rather buy Justin Herbert now than Jones for that reason.
I completely agree.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Like, if someone's trying to sell Herbert because they're like, flash in the pan, I never thought he was that good, I'm taking him.
Okay.
Yeah.
So fun dynasty question right now then. We've seen Herbert, one game, 300 yards, I think a touchdown and a rushing touchdown. Herbert or Tua?
It's a good
In
question.
a dynasty ranking
In a
or for us a year?
Dynasty ranking.
I still think I'm Tua, personally.
It's funny because I was really down on Herbert from the draft, and so were a lot of people. And I think I would probably still take Tua.
I can't judge it enough off of one game.
It's so hard, I know.
I think I would too, but I really trust Tony Romo's opinion, who was calling that game, and
Yeah.
he spoke very highly.
Oh,
of the way-
yeah,
the
he
way
was
Herbert
like-
playing. So.
Yep.
Yeah, what was he? He was saying something along the lines of, I called someone. Who's the rookie that he called being like, I think he was talking about how he called like Kyler Murray. After one game, he was like, he's going to be good, and now we see that he is. He was like, I'm calling Justin Herbert now too.
Yeah,
So he was,
that's high praise. I think
It
he's like,
is.
yeah, he knows a ton about football, obviously.
sure does.
But yeah, at least to me, if I was doing a rookie draft now, which is obviously after the fact, I would take Herbert at 5 overall,
Sure.
behind
Yeah.
Burrow 2 and the 2 running backs. But
Yeah, I think I would after that first game too. Yeah.
so,
Would you take him over Jalen Reagor?
That's such an oddly specific joke.
Not even close.
Okay.
All right, looking at Jake's team here. Gurley off week, Hilton kind of an off week. Terry McLaurin, he I know coming into the year a lot of hype. He had a really good last season. He's played pretty well this year. I don't know. What do you guys think of him going forward? I mean, does he have the potential to break into the top 12 receivers like going forward, based on still being young?
It's funny because going into the season, I would have said no. But watching him lately, I think he does. I think it's the fact that Haskins has actually taken kind of that next step a little bit. Like, he's not there yet, but he's definitely a lot more consistent. And Terry McLaurin's his guy again, which is what I was concerned about last year. Is as soon as McLaurin or Haskins came in, McLaurin wasn't his guy, but now it's clear that he is again. So I like him a lot. I think he still can develop a lot.
I mean, who else do they have to throw to other than McLaurin? Like, they have such a shitty wide receiver core after him. And I actually was the opposite of you, even though I don't like any of Jake's takes normally. He was saying, like, I think he has potential to be a top 15 wide receiver. And I actually agreed with him before the season. I'm not even saying that he will be top 15, but he's clearly wide receiver one on that team. And it's going to be one of those things where they already had the connection from college. And I think Dwayne Haskins is just going to get better. And I think Terry McLaurin's already getting better. Like, who was the rookie wide receiver that was talking about? Oh, no, maybe it was McLaurin saying he reached out to OBJ. So never mind. So anyway.
No, opposite.
Was it?
It
was.
OBJ,
I was right.
OBJ
Okay.
reached out to
That's what I
McLaurin,
thought.
yeah, which is why it's such a big deal, about route running.
Yeah, he's good. He's solid.
Yeah, no, I can't argue that. I think he's going to be really good going forward. I mean, such a good season last year where the offense was just so bad. On the flip side, we already talked about Daniel Jones, been pretty disappointing this year. Kind of on the opposite side of that, though, Darius Slayton has been, I should say, he had a really good first week, right? And then kind of an abysmal second week. But then Gardner Minshew has been pretty good this year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, we all kind of looked down on him this year, but he's proving everyone wrong again. It seems like he did that last year as well.
No, he's a QB2 in Superflex. Clearly. I mean, I think it'd be silly not to start him every week going forward now. He looks good. And I think Laviska Shenault was a really good addition for that team. And Keelan Cole has really stepped up too. So we're looking at another situation where it really turns out that having three solid weapons to go to in the receiving core is huge for quarterbacks.
Yeah, it's actually getting close to the point where I've seen debates, people talking about, like, does Jacksonville need to take Trevor Lawrence first overall?
No.
If they
won't
if
get
they
first
did
overall.
I
actually think the take
point.
is they won't
That's
get
the
first
point.
overall.
No, I
with Minshew.
agree. I agree with what you're saying. I don't think they will anymore either.
I think they're a 7-9 football team, or even 8-8.
Yeah, I agree. I think they've looked pretty good. And I think something I've heard a few times too, which actually rings true, is like Gardner Minshew is playing for his job, right? Because if they're a bottom 10 team, they're probably drafting a quarterback. Mm-hmm. And if they're not, if he can win them enough games that they're not, they'll ride with him. So
Yeah, and he's the kind of guy you want leading your team too. That was his big thing. Like last year, was the reason he was so successful and people liked him so much was because he's super charismatic and he's a super good leader. So I have full confidence in him, and I'm actually really sad that I traded him. I still got a good deal out of it, but
yeah, no, it's looking really good though. Kind of aside from the player aspect of things, going into the actual dynasty team aspect, Mike's had a pretty rough turn of events here with by far his two best players of Godwin and Golladay being out a week or two, maybe more. He has no picks next year. What would you guys recommend doing with his team going forward? Do you kind of ride out the season knowing you have no picks and then maybe tank going forward? Do you sell your couple of big assets? Do you sell Minshew, Daniel Jones? Do you ride them?
Well, he already talked about trying to trade Godwin. I've seen that. I think, unfortunately for him, if you want to try to rebuild right now, you have to target the 2022 draft.
Why does someone have all the 2021 picks?
No, I don't think so. I don't know who would have gotten those picks by doing a certain strategy, but I think there's opportunity there to still collect picks and try to regrow it from there, or just because I don't really see a way that he can realistically rebuild his team this year in order to become competitive.
no, he's not going to.
So I think you just kind of got to go for a rebuild, and this is the thing that sucks about rebuild is when you're not jumping on it right away like you should be. Sometimes you're gonna lag behind, and then as a result, you kind of have to just deal with the fact that it's gonna be lagged. The longer he waits right now, in my opinion, the worse it's gonna be for him. So if he like attacks it right now, or what I mean by right now is like throughout the season, he attacks rebuilding for the 2022 draft, I think he could potentially then be good again in say 2024, especially if he attacks 2023 and 2022. But again, I know it's easier said than done. I've gone through this once. It takes a lot of work to do it, but if you want to be competitive, that's probably unfortunately what you got to do.
So your recommendation is basically a 3-year full rebuild. Just kind of go shoot for that far out.
I would on his team. I think you kind of have to right now. I don't see the scenario in which he becomes good, especially against your team.
I don't think that you can predict like when he's going to rebuild. I think you just have to start putting feelers out there immediately. Like Galladay and Godwin, like I think you just sell. I would hold on to the quarterbacks because they've got longevity. Even though I hate Daniel Jones, you're not going to get anything for him anyway. And so, I think you could probably get like 4 first-round picks from them, arguably, maybe even more. And then you just have to try to ride out. Like we didn't even talk about Deontay Johnson. Like he's the clear wide receiver 2 on that team. After Juju Smith-Schuster, and a really damn good one. And I think eventually the Steelers are going to have to get a new quarterback, so he's going to be a solid asset for them long term. I don't even think it's a question. I think you have to just put feelers out immediately. Put them on the trading block, start trying to trade, whatever. Like, it's not going anywhere good. Maybe wait until they have a couple games so they have statistics, but
Sure, and that's fair. And I agree with everything you guys have said, and kind of on a positive note, because it is looking a bit bleak for Mike's team. He does have good prospects. I definitely don't think he'll be competitive this year or next year, but I mean, with like Akers, like you said, Deontay Johnson, Campbell's looked good until he got injured. Darius Slayton's looked fine, and then on his bench, I am personally a huge fan of Chase Claypool. He's looked really good playing. Bryan Edwards has potential. Got a lot of prospects. You just got to hope they pan out, essentially.
Yeah, I'll talk about Paris Campbell too, because I normally do victory laps, but I like to be as honest as possible. I was wrong about Paris Campbell because I actually did go back and watch like a lot of his snaps just because I was interested. This year he looks really good, and he's making T.Y. Hilton look like might be his last year of not fantasy relevance, but like real football relevance. Like Paris Campbell is the wide receiver 1 on that team moving forward. I don't know what they're going to do for quarterback long term because they have Phillip Rivers currently throwing, but he's great.
They might turn it over to Jacob Eason.
Yes, which I don't know about him either, but
No, I don't either.
He was one of the high risk, high reward.
Yes,
he's a dart throw.
Yeah, exactly.
So I think there's definitely places to rebuild here, but you got to start now because he's not turning around. There's too much competition. The longer Dynasty goes, the more stratified it gets, and we're at the point where there's 3 very good teams at the top, led by one arguably best team ever in our league at the top. And so you're not competing this year. You got to go for at least a next year rebuild minimum.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was getting on too. Is you got to start doing this before other teams start doing this before you.
Yeah, exactly.
And, like that's what I was trying to say is if another team that's also low starts saying, okay, I got to rebuild. 2022 is going to be my year, and that's why I try to say like plan out your drafts in order to kind of consolidate when you want to be good. Because I think you have to do that in order to figure it out, or else you're just going to have a lot of moving pieces that don't really align with each other. So for him, it's like the longer you wait, the more opportunity there is for somebody else to take that spot and to push you to like 2023.
I agree.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I think even in the short time that our league has been around, that strategy's been proven. I mean, you look at Adam, literally a 1-year rebuild, and look at his team now from last year, like because he acquired so many picks early. I mean, look at your team. I know you haven't drafted yet, so your team still sucks, but like you have 9 first in the next 2 years.
Yeah.
Like your team's not going to be bad come 2022. I mean, next year suspect, but like who knows?
Yeah.
I still think you kind of did it for fun too, because you're like, I could go for a championship again, but it's not as fun. It's more fun to just like try to rebuild.
Yeah, to me it felt like I had one possible championship year left, and it was really tough to do it. But that was a big thing in my head was okay, Adam had already taken up that slot before me. Nobody had really jumped on 2021. Nobody jumped on it.
Yep.
Had somebody jumped on it, I probably would have tried to stay competitive this year.
Well, to be fair, I had kind of jumped on it. You know, I think 4 of those picks I gave you, or something like that. It was
also the fact that it was the fact that you had jumped on it, but you also had a good team.
Yeah. So it's like
you weren't like a one or the other type of situation. So that's where I could at least with you, I could make you decide.
Yeah,
I like okay, I can make you an elite team, and I can just be a rebuilding team.
Yeah, overall, I think it was a really good value decision for you. I mean, I don't think you would have been the number 1 team this year. I mean, especially with Christian McCaffrey injured, but like you sold McCaffrey at an absolute high, and Russell Wilson at an absolute high. Basically just to set your team up for the next 5 to 10 years. So
Yeah, it would have been interesting. I would have been decimated with some bad injuries, especially with Kittle too.
Yeah, Kittle and McCaffrey going down, you might not have been a playoff team anyway.
Yeah, I think that actually would be fair. But I still, it's funny how actually my other assets I think would have helped me. Like Raheem Mostert was one of
Yeah.
my other running backs.
He's out now too.
Yeah, he's out. I still had Mark Ingram. Mike Evans has been doing good this year. I had him still. OBJ was still a disappointment. I still had John Brown at that time.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, you definitely might have been competitive.
It's interesting.
It'd
It's
been
interesting to look at all these players I traded away, and I think that's what gives me optimism that I can make the right choices again. And to Tom's point, a little bit, it is a little bit fun to try.
For sure.
I do want to point out one more player, getting back to this matchup. On Obi's team, actually, is James Conner, because there were some concerns going into this week because Benny Snell was looking really good, and like taking up most of the carry and target share, and then James Conner just went bell cow on his ass. And so I think it really was true that James Conner was injured last week. That was the speculation. That's confirmed. So James Conner, top 15 back moving forward, guaranteed.
Yeah, I agree. I think he'll get the touches, and I think that offense is going to be enough that he'll get the touchdowns as well. So, yep. Okay, moving on to the next matchup. We have the other matchup in that division, which was Adam versus Fowler, and this is a matchup you hate to see. Fowler at 203 with the third highest points, and Adam at 183 with the fourth highest points. Let's start with Fowler's team here. Two huge players with Dak Prescott and Aaron Jones. Let's start with Dak. What do you guys think of him?
We already kind of touched on him. I think he's legit. I hate that people don't think he's legit because they're just like, they think that he shouldn't be legit because he's a cowboy and he wasn't drafted highly. He's a legitimate quarterback that still has legs and has three incredibly good receivers. Enough said to me.
Yeah, this game was nuts. That was a crazy game for him. It was so good. He does this though. When it gets to be high scoring games, he shows up. Like he really does. I get that it's Atlanta's defense and they're not very good, but I mean, Dak Prescott is a very good shootout quarterback. Is the way I put him.
Yep.
He's done this historically too. I mean, he did that against Green Bay in the playoffs when I think the Cowboys beat Green Bay in that game. And it's just like Dak can literally rise to the occasion. So I've always been kind of iffy on Dak, but I'm not really iffy on him anymore. I like him.
I completely agree. Yeah, I mean, he averaged almost 10 yards per attempt, not even completion this week. So, and then 3 rushing touchdowns. That's obviously not going to continue.
No.
But even if he gets 3 for the rest of the year, that's still additional points that you wouldn't get from most other quarterbacks that aren't on Tom's team.
Mm-hmm. Accurate.
How about Aaron Jones? I saw a really interesting stat about him the other day, and I'm going to misquote this. But I believe in the last 10 games, he's had 3 games that are above 40 fantasy points. In that span, there's been 6 total games, so he has half of them.
Wow.
So he is basically just, when he pops off harder than everyone, including McCaffrey even. Mm-hmm. So I mean, what do you guys think of him going forward? I mean, I'm looking at this 230 all-purpose yards and 3 touchdowns this week. I mean, I'd say he couldn't do this again, but he did it twice last year.
So, a couple notes. Point 1 is that he was playing against Detroit. That's the only bad point. Because point number 2 is that he's a legitimate receiving running back. He always has been, but he's even because there aren't any receivers in that offense other than Adams, he's showing up. And he made an incredibly good diving backwards catch against the Lions that it doesn't matter who was against, it was beautiful. And Rodgers just gave him that's my guy. So you know what? Actually, my third point about Aaron Jones is why the fuck did the Packers draft A.J. Dillon? Because what they needed more than anyone was a receiver, and they could have gotten a legitimately good receiver in the second round instead of A.J. Dillon.
It's still looking like one of the I don't want to say the dumbest draft picks that they've made, but it's definitely just looking like they could have just gone in such a different direction.
Yeah.
In my opinion.
Yeah, and then point 3 is that Aaron Jones is in a contract year. So they're gonna give him the opportunity to show it off so that he can get a big contract, which I think he's in line with Dalvin Cook, Kamara.
Really, you think that high?
Oh yeah,
okay.
Absolutely.
I was putting him more around the 10 million mark, but yeah, that'd be pretty good if he got 13.
Yeah,
but I mean, he's looked really good. No doubt about it. I mean, only 22 touches as well for 50 fantasy points, which is
he's very
even
efficient.
More impressive. Yeah, almost 10 yards per rush. Other than that, just to briefly touch on it, bummer about Saquon. Yeah, you really hate to see that. Yeah, just really a bummer. On a more happy note, DK Metcalf. I know we're all just thrilled with him. I mean, where do you guys rank him now? Is he a top 10 dynasty receiver?
Yes. I'm not even hesitating saying that. I don't think he is on Fantasy Pros. I think from watching him with Russell, I love it. He's big. He's physical. He has all the attributes that I wanted to see him have from college translate to the NFL. He looks like Julio to me. I love watching him play.
Yeah, the comparison I always saw is he looks like Calvin Johnson, and he does very similar slant routes as Calvin Johnson in college at least, and now it's a little bit more than that. And he's really developed as his physicality is the main thing, is that he's really embraced that he is a physical wide receiver that can go up and grab the balls, and that's scary. So yeah, I agree. I think he's top 10. I think he's even potentially moving forward top 5 because he's got Russell Wilson as his quarterback.
Yeah, exactly. A freak athlete with one of the best quarterbacks in the league, if not the best. Yeah, no, I agree with both what you guys have said, and then just to add on to that too, he played against Gilmore. I mean, he was matched up with Gilmore the entire matchup, and he still put up almost 100 yards and a touchdown. That does not happen.
And that touchdown catch was over Gilmore. He literally just took it out of his hands. Gilmore, it was nuts.
Gilmore was getting so frustrated that they started a fight.
Yeah. When was the last time that happened?
Yeah, I mean, okay, let's play a quick game of who would you rather? DK Metcalf, or these are all players above him on the Fantasy Pros list. Amari Cooper.
Oh, DK Metcalf.
Yeah, DK.
Kenny Galladay.
DK.
Agreed?
I agree. Yeah.
AJ Brown.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, DK.
I agree with that one. I think AJ Brown's
I don't know why he's still so high, but yeah.
This is where it gets a little tougher in my opinion. Mike Evans.
That's the line.
27 years old compared to 22, but obviously Mike Evans is proven.
I take DK there. I think that's the last spot where I take him over. Is
like
right there.
You would take like Juju, DJ Moore, Chris Godwin above DK.
Yeah, sure. I think so.
Okay, so yeah, mid top 10 basically. Then yeah, he's certainly looking very good.
I actually want to point out on that note that it's really disappointing because Ben Fowler's team was really good before, before he lost Barkley. It's so disappointing because I think he was actually a playoff team that got really big hits, both from DK Metcalf improving, Chark staying about the same with Minshew getting better, and then Larry Fitzgerald still on his team. I mean, and then Russell Gage now is actually a startable fantasy asset. So I was a bit disappointed for him that he lost Barkley, to be honest. It made me sad.
Yeah, it's a real bummer for him. And I know we've talked about this for like literally the last 2 years, is that Fowler's starters could honestly line up with pretty much anyone's in the league, but he has almost no bench. So you get one injury like this, and it almost decimates an entire team. So
the nice thing is that they're all just young. Like this lineup isn't going away. At least it's not to me. I mean, DJ Chark and DK are going to be there for a while. Sure, Larry might fall and go somewhere else, but it's like Dak's still young, Saquon's still young, Aaron Jones is 25. Like, I don't know. He'll still be good for a couple of years with this roster, especially if he gets another couple of hits.
Yeah, I agree. And I mean, it's nice that he did start 2-0 this year too. I know that. I mean, obviously Barkley hurts a lot, but got the lead in the division. So let's switch over to Adam's team here. So we got Kyler Murray having a great week. Clyde Edwards-Helaire, definitely a little bit less utilized here. Where do you guys think? How do you guys think the Chiefs use him going forward? More of the first week, the 25 carries, or more of the second week, the 10 carries? It's a pretty vast difference there.
Yeah, it just seemed like they were trying to get Thompson and Williams more involved this week, and I think part of that was game script because they were behind actually surprisingly a large amount of the game. I actually don't think there's anything to report here though. I think Helaire is still like their RB1, and he gets the reception share over those two guys that I just mentioned. So just a low carry week, but he's nothing to report.
Yeah, I think it's just always going to come down to, I don't even want to say game script. It is a little bit, but it's almost just like, how is the game going? Are they behind? If so, I think he'll put up more stuff like this. If they're ahead, he's going to do exactly what he did the first week. I think the intention is to have him run a lot, but it might not happen. I mean, I'm a little bit concerned with the 6 receptions and only 32 yards out of that. That's not a lot of yards for those receptions.
Still points.
It is. And that's the point that I would say, like, he is one of those guys that, from watching him, I think he's talented. Do I truly think he's like an elite talent? No.
I do.
I think it's just, really?
I think he's an elite talent on a team that's going to feed him eventually, and I think we're going to get like 5 straight years of LaShawn McCoy.
I think he's an above average talent that's on a great offense, to me, from watching him play.
I'd side with Cody on this. Like, personally, I think Jonathan Taylor's a better talent.
Yeah, but I would rather have Helaire on the Chiefs than Jonathan Taylor.
Yeah, but
that's our point. That's my point.
I don't think he's an elite talent. I think he's a good talent, but I don't think he's elite personally.
Sure. I mean, if there's somewhere between above average and elite, I guess my point entirely is that I'm not like I think I'm leaning towards his production in week 1 over his production in week 2.
Sure.
I think this is just a lower end of the blip.
So I mean, I guess over under for this year, knowing his first 2 weeks, 1,600 all-purpose yards. So averaging 100 yards per game, counting receiving and rushing.
That's hard.
I think that's literally the line where I would probably put it at.
I mean, I would say under, but even if it's under, that's still a top 15 running back.
Oh yeah, no,
So-
I don't
so
think
I-
anyone says he's not going to be top.
Yeah,
15.
no.
I'm not arguing that at all.
But-
Like I said, I think the team that he's on is very much going to always keep him on RB1.
Yeah. Yeah, I think he's awesome.
Yep, I agree. David Johnson, I don't think there's a whole lot to say about him. He should be fine, but he's getting old and there's nothing special about him. DJ Moore has been playing pretty dang well. Definitely looks like the alpha on that offense. I know we did briefly discuss that we all think he's a top 6 dynasty receiver. So I mean, anything really to touch on with him other than he's amazing and young.
This was a great bounce back game. It's actually funny. Rodney, who is it? Rodney Anderson.
Robbie
Robbie Anderson has actually put up way better stats than him so far this year. Not way better, but just has put up better stats. But I still think DJ Moore is the guy.
I think the long touchdowns help a lot, and I think
Yeah.
those will probably fall off eventually. You can't really replace 13 targets.
Yeah, they have effing Bridgewater. I mean, so I think I'd rather have, because it's Bridgewater, I'd rather have DJ Moore.
Oh yeah, I agree.
So
100%.
Yep. I know we did briefly talk about it earlier too, but Calvin Ridley. One thing I do want to bring up on this is who ends better, because this has been kind of a hot topic before the season and then actually now for these first 2 weeks. Who ends better, Calvin Ridley or Julio on the year?
this might be the year that it kind of turns into Calvin Ridley, especially with all the injuries. Who knows how Julio actually bounces back from this hamstring.
I think it actually is fully dependent on exactly what you said. When does Julio recover? As soon as he recovers, I take Julio again.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not by a ton. But if it occurs a little bit too late, then I think Ridley could overtake him this year. But if it happens, say, next week, then I think I'd take Julio the rest of the way.
Sure. Yeah, it'll be interesting to watch. I think they're both very good options going forward. So I think last player in Adam's team that's fun to touch on is Joe Burrow, the Golden God.
Golden God!
So he broke the record for rookie pass completions, but that was on 61 attempts. I didn't hear if that was also a record, but I have to imagine that's a record, right?
It's got to be.
61 attempts? That's ridiculous.
Did you see a stat that Joe Burrow threw more passes that game than Jimmy Garoppolo did in the whole postseason last year?
I did not. That's pretty hilarious. Wow, that's actually really crazy. I would not have guessed that.
Yeah, that's how insane it was. From watching the game, I still like Burrow. I love his talent that he has. Needs a much better offensive line. He's getting destroyed in the pocket. He makes rookie mistakes that I've watched him. Like, there's just a couple bad throws, but the thing is, basically, his only rookie mistakes is just his long throws, which I think it's just a timing issue. I think as soon as he gets the timing down, he'll be fine on those, which that's just part of the hurdle. But yeah, they just need to protect him before he actually dies.
Yeah, I mean, here's the thing about Burrow to me. He's very clearly a rookie, but he's like fantasy boosted by the fact that the Bengals want to just like throw him into the fire and get him used to real game action. So he's basically a volume quarterback, which isn't something that's very common in the NFL necessarily. And they're going to be down a lot. And that's what this was. To be fair, the 61 was not because that was just because they were down the entire game to the Browns by double digits for most of the game even. Yeah. So, yeah, I think by next year he's probably already a top 10 quarterback. But this year he's just going to be a rookie and just continue to grow. But I wouldn't be surprised if he has a historically good rookie season.
Yeah, just based on volume.
But on stats, yes. Let me clarify.
Yeah.
I think that's a good thing to point out too, is that he was so inefficient this game. Which, I mean, I get it. The more volume you get, the more inefficient you typically are. But I think one thing to point out is through his first 2 games, he has 1 interception through basically 100 attempts. I think that's pretty impressive for a rookie coming in. So
yeah, has fumbled the ball 3 times though.
Yeah, I would think that's more on his line personally, but
that's kind of where I think
that's still not a good thing though, for sure.
Well, I actually am going to go ahead and say, to me, it's a pocket awareness thing, which is more of a rookie thing, because I think there's 2 points to draw from that. A, he has multiple fumbles, which means he's not necessarily feeling the pressure, but it also means that I have noticed several times from watching him that he's not taking the run lanes when he should be. Like there's several opportunities where it's like, holy crap, run, and then he like tries to make an awesome throw. And sometimes he completes it, but so I think both of those things are both related to pocket presence and just like pocket awareness. So he'll get better with that. But to your point, he's really fast. So
yeah, no, I think it'll be interesting, and I'm guessing that's kind of tough for him to adjust to, just because the LSU O line was so good.
right,
They never had to deal with that compared to like they might have the worst offensive line in the
they
league.
look
I mean,
awful.
like he had 3 sacks both games, so like that's part of it, and I assume part of the low completion percentage per attempt is also because he's rushed all the time. Like you say, he tries to make these ridiculous throws.
Yeah, Myles Garrett on literally the blind side, like steamrolling him.
Yeah.
It just results in Joe Burrow like not having a fun time.
Mm-hmm.
yep,
at all.
But overall, I think we all agree he's a pretty bright future, right? Should be a decent player this
Yeah,
year.
I would agree.
yeah. Maybe top 10 was a bit much, what I was saying last year, but
Oh, for this year?
yeah. I said for next year he could be top 10 already. That's probably a bit too much. But
That's not ridiculous at all. I don't
yeah,
think.
maybe in fantasy specifically.
So like looking at the list right now, I mean, we kind of talked about with Daniel Jones earlier, right? Other than the top 9 or so, it falls off real quick. So like there's really not that much. You go Mahomes, Jackson, Prescott, Murray, Watson, Wilson, Josh Allen. After that, it's kind of a jumble. So I don't know. But
Do you think
it's pretty reasonable.
just because I was looking at the rankings really quick, do you think Carson Wentz is still above Joe Burrow?
I don't. Not after the start to this year for
Yeah.
both of them.
Yeah.
To be honest. So
Yeah, I was thinking about that because they have Carson Wentz at number 8 and Burrow at number 9 right now in the Dynasty rankings, and I was kind of feeling the same way.
yeah, no, I'd probably take Burrow over Wentz, but okay. Any final points on that matchup, or should we move on?
N'Keal Harry got 12 targets. That's just a cool point. I mean,
Yeah, hopefully he's starting to turn on a little bit. So.
yeah.
I think he has to eventually, but I mean, the fact that Cam's using him has to signify that he trusts him.
Yeah.
So I actually think he'll have a good season. Like he just needs to catch a couple more touchdowns, but if that throwing production's there to him,
Right.
especially the targets. I mean, the targets have been there, so I like him. I still like him.
Yeah, I agree. I think he's a fine flex player, maybe wide receiver 3 if you need him. But all right, I don't remember if I mentioned it, but yeah, Fowler won that game, so Fowler is 2-0, and Adamy is 1-1.
To Weiler Bernal.
Both really good teams,
Tyler
but
Burnell.
one
Yeah.
of them took a hit to Barkley.
Both very good teams. To summarize that division, then Fowler is leading at 2-0. Adam and O'Brien, who were both the favorites, are at 1-1, and then Mike Reed is at 0-2.
I think Adams going to be better than O'Brien's team this year.
That's what I was going to bring up too. Who do you guys think wins this division? It's kind
Adam.
of a 3-headed giant. You think Adam?
Yeah, only because Fowler lost Barkley.
I'll make a $1 bet with you that Jake does.
Just for the fun of
Cody, do you want to take Fowler to make it a 3-headed giant?
Sorry, I'm reviewing their teams a little bit. I think so. Tom, you think Adam will?
Yeah.
That's not a bad guess.
The only
I
player,
honestly can't go in on this. I don't know who. I truly do not know who I think will win it.
the only player
the
that
most
needs a
interesting
clear
division,
upgrade
yeah.
for him, actually Austin Hooper. I don't want to talk about him too
brutal.
much. That's sad. But the only player arguably that he needs to upgrade is his wide receiver 3 and Mike Williams, and that's not even necessarily that bad.
And his flex. And his tight end.
I think N'Keal Harry's a fine flex moving forward.
Well, sure. Yeah, that's fair.
But
Either way, yeah, I think it's a really close division. I think it'll be really fun. But
Yeah.
you got the $1 bet in. You go with that.
sure.
Cody, you're not taking Fowler.
No, I
He-
can't.
hey,
Not
he's-
after the Saquon injury.
He's
I can't.
2-0. He's leading the division.
I know.
We're giving you a handicap.
Thank you.
You're
You
welcome.
guys are very kind. But no, I can't.
Adam also has DeAndre Swift on his bench too.
Yeah,
That's
Yeah, but
crazy,
I don't
man.
think.
You could
Yeah,
start- I
that'll
don't-
be great next year.
But it
Exactly.
could already. I think it could already start to be good by the end of this year. To be honest.
Could be. That could
Maybe.
be the turning point where you put in
That's-
Harry as the wide receiver 3 and
Right.
Swift.
Maybe. Yeah.
All right, moving on to the last division of the night. This matchup, I have Matt Magnuson versus Cody Meatball Holla. So this was certainly the blowout of the week per sleeper at 154 to 66. That was certainly bolstered by Cody's only quarterback getting sacked, fumbling, and then getting out for the entire game.
Bang bang. Bang bang.
So Cody, I know. Let's start with your team. I know that you don't want to win any games this year, and if you could score 60 every week, you'd love to. What have you seen from your young players that you're actually really excited about?
That they're playing. No,
It's literally just Judy and Ruggs.
yeah, it's pretty much just Judy and Ruggs. Kirk has been actually really disappointing to see so far, especially with DeAndre going there. So I'm actually worried about Kirk. Judy, I'm very high on. I think he's gotten enough compliments. I know he had the 2 drop passes. I get it, but he made a damn good catch this last week where he took a hit from the middle linebacker of the Steelers. I forget what his name is. He's a 1-year player. Devin Smith or Devin.
Yeah, something like
Devin
that.
White, something like that.
Yeah, it's Devin White.
Yeah, he took a huge hit from him and held onto the ball, and it was a great catch. And there was another one where he literally just ran around. Like Judy's looked really good to me, even though the stats haven't quite been there yet. As much as Ruggs didn't do well against New Orleans, I read an article about him that said he was being used very much as like a big decoy. I know Derek Carr missed a touchdown pass to him. I think he overthrew him. So I'm still optimistic on Ruggs too. He's clearly a focal point in that offense, which you love to see it from a rookie.
Mm-hmm.
So I think besides those 2 guys, there's not a whole lot. I think I picked up Bird. Bird had a good week this week, but
All right,
Okay,
let's move on.
I was moving on. Yeah, we can move on to the other teams.
All right,
There's not a lot.
Cody, your team will be a lot more fun to talk about next year.
Yeah.
All right.
I also probably have to pick up a quarterback now, don't I? Because I literally don't have a single starting quarterback.
Yeah, your team's pretty. I don't think there's any starting quarterbacks on the wire, but maybe
there's
maybe
3.
Okay. Well, that'll be fun.
Two probably.
Fun to look into next week.
Yeah.
Cody just wants to talk about his team.
This is like, guys, my team. Am I like the defense kicker conversation
Yes,
now?
your team is just all defensive kickers.
Worse than that.
When did we talk about the draft?
Yeah. week 15.
Damn
All
it.
right, let's move on to Matt's team. Matt's team's actually kind of fun. Deshaun Watson. I know we've talked about it, not on the podcast, but it seems like you guys are both a little worried about him and don't necessarily believe in him without DeAndre Hopkins there. Can you expand on that?
Yeah.
Yep.
I mean, Cook stepped up a little bit more, and then they still have Kenny Stills and blanking on the last Will Fuller, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
All solid 3 guys, just like no one stepping up as the wide receiver 1. So I actually do think that's somewhere that could improve. Once they actually do find like a wide receiver 1 on that offense, I think Watson will go to him more often and he'll actually improve. But yeah, I mean, Hopkins is a huge loss and a huge gain for the Arizona Cardinals. I think it's very much proof that a wide receiver 1 in the NFL matters so much more than a lot of other positions. It's crazy.
Yeah, I 100% agree. And as much as I don't like Watson, I'll cut him some slack. He played a really good defense. He played the Ravens. They're consistently top 10. So give him a little bit of slack there. But, yeah, I think he's just going to have a tough time this year. And I think it's going to kind of just show to me about him. Like, I don't know. I've liked he has good talent. I've just always thought he's a little overrated. But.
Well, it's because he's a running quarterback, but now everyone's a running quarterback. So it actually is just kind of like the plague of the plights. I just made that up. I don't even know what that means.
I like it.
Yeah. I don't know what it means either.
I meant to say like it's a plague of
the times.
Of the kind of in the sense that like everyone's a running quarterback. So by proxy, he's not as valued as just a running quarterback. So since everyone's doing it, he's not that hot shit anymore.
To me, he actually reminds me more of a lot closer to like a Russell Wilson than Lamar Jackson, because to me he's more of like a scrambling quarterback, which maybe it sounds like splitting hairs.
No,
like he really doesn't run that much. But he always gets away from sacks. Like
early in his career, he was running
sacks.
more.
That's true.
Yeah. That's what I was referencing. But you're right. He's actually starting to develop less away from that. Russell Wilson ran a lot in his career. He was kind of like Kyler Murray, which I still think is a super apt comparison.
Didn't he just pass 4,000 career rushing yards?
Russell?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. He used to run a ton, and he's just slowed it down a little bit.
Like 10 years or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But, right. Yeah, either way, I think Deshaun Watson's put up 250 and 275 passing yards per game. I think he's been fine, but I think we all agree he definitely takes a hit without DeAndre.
Yep, for sure.
Okay, big riser from week 1 even of the season is Jonathan Taylor. Without Marlon Mack, it's 26 carries, 101 yards, and a touchdown, including a couple of receptions as well. I mean, where do you guys have him the rest of the year? Top 10? Top 15 at least, I assume.
I don't have him top 10, but I have him probably top 15.
I have him top 10. He's going to get the volume every week, and he's got Naheem Hines to compete with on a team that's going to want to continue to run the ball with an aging quarterback.
I don't know if he's going to get this volume. I think the fact that he actually only put up, on 26 carries, only put up 100 yards against, honestly, a terrible Vikings defense.
That's exactly what you can ask for. That's only, I mean, that's fine. That's like average.
Yeah, it's
4 yards carry. It's not
I
bad.
agree, but it's
not bad at
but
all.
that's my point. It's okay against debatably top or low, like bottom 5 rushing defense.
Oh,
Yeah.
I don't know if that's necessarily
You don't think we are?
true.
No,
You think without
you're
Daniil?
you're being reactionary because they've started off really poorly.
I don't know if we're bottom 5. I don't think we're good, but I still think we're like.
You just signed
19 or
Ngakoue
20.
too. Yeah.
I said
Yeah.
just rush defense specifically. You think rush
Yeah,
defense?
I don't know if we're bottom 5 necessarily.
No, I don't think so either.
Yeah, we'll know more as the season goes on without a defensive tackle, but
I think that's a dollar bet. I'm saying he's top 10 the rest of the way,
Yeah, I definitely would
and I
take
think
that
he would
dollar
even.
bet
I
that
think he
he's
would even
not.
finish top 10.
I don't think he's going to get this type of usage consistently. I don't think 26 carries is going to
So you're saying that a rookie running back is going to get less usage than what he's gotten the first 2 weeks?
I don't think he's going to get 26.
Because normally it's the other way around. Is
I
what
don't
I'm
think
saying.
sure,
I agree
but
that
he's not going to get
that's
26.
my point. I'm not saying. I agree 26 is an outlier.
Yeah.
But I'm saying he's going to regress to like 20 a game and like 5 targets, maybe even 6 targets a game. So
I think it depends on game script, and I think the game script was clear against the Vikings, which was run.
Yeah, which is why he wasn't getting receptions. So when he gets receptions back, he had 6 in week 1. He's a good pass catcher running back. Like,
yeah, I think I like him. I do like him going forward. I just don't think he'll be top 10 this year.
Sam, where do you fall in this debate?
I for sure take top 10.
Yeah.
I'm not part of the bet, but yeah, I would certainly take top 10. Like I said before, I think he's a huge talent. They have the best offensive line in the league, and I think they're going to want to run a lot.
another big part of it.
We're talking about Phillip Rivers, like the dump off king.
That's what I'm
which
getting at.
I don't think
yeah.
Jonathan Taylor's that good of a receiver, but like if he can even get like 3 to 4 dump offs a game,
Yes.
I think that bolsters his value.
Which is why I'm saying you can't look at the fact he only has 2 targets from this game because they were up all game. That's why he only got 2 targets.
And like just watching the game, I actually did think he looked really good. And every game, I think he looks really good. He's huge and he's fast behind an amazing offensive line. But
Yeah.
it'll be interesting to see. I think he could be one of the biggest risers for the rest of the season for sure. Anything to say on Devin Singletary? To me, there's not a whole lot. He'll be okay. That Buffalo rushing attack doesn't seem great. It seems like a split carry.
Yeah, I was gonna say, do you need to be worried about Zach Moss at all?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, to be fair, Matt does have both, but I think right now there's vulturing off of each
Yeah,
other.
it's
That's what
the
I
same
mean.
situation
Like,
I have
good.
with Fournette and Jones. You don't know who it's going to be, and I actually was really encouraged by Devin Singletary last year because I thought he was just going to be their bell cow moving forward, and not like that's not their intention. He's their year 2 running back now, and they do not want him to be their bell cow. So
Yep.
that's more of a Buffalo scheming thing, which I think is smart because I actually think Buffalo's a playoff team. So
Oh yeah, I think for sure they're looking really good.
Absolutely.
another instance of wide receiver making a huge difference on that team is Stephon Diggs. Sorry, I just want to talk about real football for a bit because I've made this point a lot, like starting 2 years ago, and now it's even more true. Like having a wide, and I just said it like 50 minutes ago, so I apologize for being a broken record, but having a solid wide receiver on your team is so important to an offense. I'm going to go ahead and say it's the next most important thing after quarterback. Like cases, the 2 use cases here, or the 2 like, what do you call that when you do like a research, whatever. Anyway,
Case studies.
case study, there we go, is Diggs leaving Minnesota and going to the Bills. Look what happened to Minnesota. Look what happened to the Bills offense. And then we have Hopkins leaving Houston and going to the Cardinals, and look at what happened to both of those. So
To counter that, I mean, if we're using this small of a sample size,
yeah,
you look at Quentin Nelson going to the Colts. They went from one of the worst offensive lines in the league to like probably the best offensive line in the league.
yeah,
I would say offensive line matters more than wide receiver on the offensive side. And then on the defensive side, I'd say defensive line. And my example for that is Nick Bosa. You look at San Francisco went from 2-14 to 13-3, 14-2. What did they go last year?
13-3, I thought.
Yeah, it was something
They stepped
ridiculous.
up.
And given that wasn't all Nick Bosa
Right.
by any means, but like it did seem like he bolstered their defense a lot.
I think I'm mainly saying relative to what I think what people used to think about the NFL was that receivers didn't matter that much because you have to run like a lot of times most of the time you're running 3 wide receiver sets, and a lot of time you're running 4 wide receiver sets. I don't know.
I think
Especially with a passing attack that is so traditional now.
Correct.
the only example I would use to just counter that, I agree with you for the most part, but if people wanted to counter it, they could probably use the OBJ argument.
I would think that's more of a Baker Mayfield problem, but yeah. But to your point, you would think you would elevate Baker Mayfield, but
Right. Is that a good wide receiver? It's that a quarterback in theory probably wouldn't regress that much on his own.
But it's only a half point because it clearly regressed the Giants. I mean, he left at the same time as Daniel Jones did, but
Or
Daniel
Eli
Jones.
Manning.
Yeah, right.
No, I agree. I generally do agree with you.
Yeah, I do think, in my opinion, it's the fourth most important position.
Sure.
Behind D-line, quarterback, offensive line.
Yeah.
Those are where I put it. But
Yeah.
overall, yeah, I think we agree that it's definitely a very important position. I mean, like you mentioned, Stephon Diggs, I'd like to touch on him a little further. And he's the number 4 wide receiver so far this year, which I didn't believe in not only the Buffalo passing attack, but also Stephon Diggs' actual talent. I thought he was good, but he's been insane.
No, he's got actual talent, and with John Brown, he's insane.
Yeah, where does it go from here?
I actually don't think he's any different than. Actually, you could probably make the argument he's better than he was in Minnesota for fantasy value.
I think he is.
And it really it raises the Josh Allen question too a little bit, but I don't want to talk about Josh Allen too much because I actually think it is a sample size issue a little bit, because I don't think he went from being a bottom 15 passer to now the best passer in the league statistically, which is not going to keep going that way.
No, probably not. I mean, let's also keep in mind this is against the Jets and against the Dolphins.
Right.
Give it some more time. But for Diggs, I mean, I could reasonably see him being a top 10 wide receiver this year. I mean, especially with him already being at number 4. Yeah. That seems pretty reasonable for him.
Yeah, I agree, and it seems like their chemistry got heated up super quick.
Yep.
So, yeah, no, he's looked really good. Anything to touch on Mike Evans or Keenan Allen? I feel like they've done pretty much what they should.
Mm-hmm.
So,
yeah,
nothing
I
crazy
agree.
there. James Robinson, really good pickup for Matt this year.
Mm-hmm.
Looks like he's going to be the bell cow for that team, so should be a solid player.
Yeah, is Raquel Armstead even back yet?
No, he's still injured. I picked him up.
He actually might lessen Robinson quite a bit.
That's why I picked him up too. I think because he was always supposed to be the guy once Fournette left. It was supposed to be Armstead, but obviously if Robinson keeps playing well, it's not like they're just going to be like, oh, you don't have a job anymore. So
no, but I think it might affect him.
I think it could. I think it could take a couple carries away. I think it's just as simple as if Robinson ever slips up, then it goes back to Armstead.
Right.
Yep.
But if he doesn't slip up, then it's his. It's like his to lose.
Right.
I'd agree with that. Any final thoughts on that matchup before we move on to the last one?
Kirk Cousins
sucks.
Kirk Cousins sucks.
That's true. Yeah, Kirk Cousins is not looking good at all.
Yeah. I think at one point, what was it? He had 65 yards, 3 interceptions.
Yeah, he was 6 for 22 at one point, or something like that.
And then garbage time
happened. Theoretically couldn't have been 6 for 22,
yeah.
But it was 6 for 21 or 20 in the third quarter with 69 yards and 3 interceptions, and I was just like, holy fuck, this is so bad.
Which again, I still think it's more of a thing about Diggs. I think I've always said that Thielen isn't as good as he was for those 2 years. And I think we're seeing that again this year. I think Diggs helped Thielen quite a bit.
Thielen's been playing
I actually
pretty
disagree.
well.
I agree Thielen's playing pretty well, but people were saying he was a Hall of Fame wide receiver after 2 years.
Did people say that?
Yes, because he was having a historically good season. That's when he had 10 straight games of 100 yards and 10 catches.
Okay, but it was 110 yards every game.
Yeah.
That's
I understand.
That's not that. It was a very consistent stretch, but it's not like he was 150, 170. You know what I mean?
But he's not good enough to carry a team like some of the other elite wide receivers are, is my point. And people were putting him up there is the point.
Oh, I completely agree with you.
I think, but I think he's a top 15 wide receiver.
Yeah, I'd agree with that as well.
Yeah,
yep,
but he's not in the carry tier.
Yeah,
he's not Julio. He's not DeAndre Hopkins.
Right.
He's not Devontae Adams.
Yeah.
The Diggs loss shouldn't leave this much of regression.
Yeah,
would be my opinion.
Exactly.
Sure.
There has to be underlying issues that are also playing. Either he doesn't know how to trust his other wide receivers yet. If it's an offensive line issue, it's an offensive coordinator issue. It's got to be something else because, don't get me wrong, I think Stephon Diggs is a great talent, but I think losing just one wide receiver right there doesn't make you regress this much.
Yeah.
We'll see. I hope Justin Jefferson can kind of pick it up too.
If he gets the targets, literally just pass him the ball. He's been great every time he gets the ball, but just I don't know what it is.
Yep. Yeah, I'd agree. All right, just to summarize that matchup again, Matt beat Cody 154-66. Matt is now 1-1. Cody's 0-2.
Yes.
And Matt has Jerick McKinnon.
That could be big.
Yeah,
that could be big. All right, last matchup we have Matt Trujillo versus Marcus. Trujillo won at 221. That is a hell of a week to 152. Matt is now 2-0 and Marcus is 1-1. Couple of big weeks here from Josh Allen and Nick Chubb for Matt, huh?
Mm-hmm.
I know we already briefly touched on Josh Allen, but I mean, is he the real deal? 300+ yard games in a row. I mean, I know easy matchups, but I mean, does he end top 5? It's kind of the line at this point.
I mean, I think he could just because of just because of his running potential he's always had, and the fact that I think that's not going to go anywhere. He was always, to me, he was always a good fantasy option, but maybe just kind of an average actual NFL QB was the way I viewed him. And I think if he has Diggs and they do end up having a connection, and then he also gets the rushes, yeah, I don't see why not. But I don't know. I wouldn't be willing to bet that he's going to be top five.
I'd make $1 bet that he's outside of it.
I'm not willing to bet that he's going to be that because I easily see a situation which he's not. But
I think he has improved from last year, but I don't want to say that he's like I don't want to be overly reactionary.
Yeah,
but I mean he was number 8 last year.
I understood.
So like he's been very good and
he'll be top 10. And I would take a bet on that.
Well, yeah, I think everyone pretty much agrees.
Yeah,
but I think it is interesting this year that he hasn't really been bolstered by his rushing stats that much. I mean, so far 730 passing yards and 6 touchdowns in 2 weeks it's elite numbers for anyone you talk about. So
very true.
But yeah, no, I think he's a very good player. Kenyon Drake been pretty mediocre this year, but he's getting the touches, so no concerns there. Nick Chubb momentarily had some pretty big faults there. After the Kareem Hunt signing, he only got 4 points the first week. Huge bounce back week here. Do you guys trust this week more than the first week or vice versa?
I mean, he's the clear RB1 on the team, but Kareem Hunt is just going to be like slightly behind him. I think this might be his best week of the season. Is what I'll say.
Yeah, I think I changed my position on him a little bit. I think I'm kind of more in line with that from doing further review on him. I think he's I think it's going to be unfortunate that Kareem Hunt's there.
I mean, the thing is, the Browns aren't going to be winning games this handily all year. So he's not going to get, like I said, that's why I said, so if this is his best game of the season, I think he finishes like top 20, which is still a great RB2.
Sure. So
but
I guess like let's put the line at like the middle RB2, RB18, above or below that. PPR.
I think above RB18 for me.
Yeah. Better than?
Yeah.
I think that's fair.
Not by much if he is, but
sure.
Maybe somewhere between like 18 and 14, possibly.
Sure. Certainly concerning, though, compared to what he was valued at last season, or even this offseason. So.
Yeah. All it would take is a Kareem Hunt leaving for him to go right back up there.
Completely agree. Yep. All right, Amari Cooper, fine game. I think we all agree. At least I think he'll still be fine, even with CeeDee Lamb showing up. He's the most talented receiver on that team. We talked about Thielen. He should be fine. Tyler Lockett, I guess, any concerns with DK Metcalf kind of stepping into news territory there, probably being the number one?
No.
Player?
Nope.
It was already starting to happen last year, and it's just a 2 wide receiver set. That's all they have. So, and it's Russell Wilson, so no.
Sure.
Yep.
So still a solid receiver.
Yeah.
Okay.
No.
Absolutely.
Darren Waller is kind of an interesting one. Is he the next guy up? Like, I mean, Darren Waller or Mark Andrews at this point?
They were jacking him off so hard on Monday Night Football last night.
Darren Waller.
Oh, my God.
Yeah.
Because he's a former drug addict, so he's the fucking sob story. Still chasing the dragon, just in NFL this time.
Very cool.
Very empathetic of you.
I mean, I think he actually does vault into the tier of the elite receivers just because of how much they're using him. And he's like the fastest receiver in the NFL.
Tight end, yeah.
Yep, tight end. Yep. So, I don't know. I guess, yeah, even though it sounded really negative in my tone, I think he's a solid tight end to own.
So I guess, okay, so how do you value the top 4 then? Like, who are your top 4 tight ends in order?
In order?
In order.
I mean, you always have to say Kelsey 1.
Probably.
Then you have to say Kittle 2.
It
used to be Ertz.
Like for this.
Yeah.
For
are we
this
talking
year.
about redraft or like this year? Or are we talking dynasty?
It's about like this year.
Oh, like this year alone?
You can talk dynasty if we want to, but
Yeah. I mean, it used to always be Ertz, and then Ertz has very much dropped off with Carson Wentz a little bit. I think you could make a fine argument for Waller 3.
Yeah, I think if it's just going off this season, just because we don't know the extent of Kittle's injury, I think that drops him off to maybe 3 or 4 right now.
Sure.
For the rest of the year.
Sure.
I actually think with Waller could move up. He's just seeing an insane amount of targets.
Yeah.
Which
24
there's
in 2
nobody else
weeks.
on that team besides maybe Ruggs to try to take some, but they're not giving him targets. So
Yeah.
I feel very comfortable with Waller putting him up there. Even like with like the Ravens and Mark Andrews, I feel like Lamar's still trying to. He's been actually spreading the ball around quite evenly to a bunch of different guys.
Yeah, because he's turning into a good passer.
Well, either that or he just doesn't know how to throw to one guy. But
No, it's a side topic. I don't want to get into that because I'm biased, but he is becoming a passer.
yeah, he can throw a football.
God damn it. No, I would take Waller at 2 then, I guess, if you're saying Kittle goes down. But I guess, no, I'm not saying that. So I would say 3. He's 3.
Okay.
You still put Kittle up above him?
Yeah,
for
I
the
do.
rest of this year?
Well, I mean, I don't care to talk about injuries for like projecting ROS. So like, yeah. Assuming he's healthy, I'm putting Kittle above him.
Yeah, and I would do the same then in that situation.
Yeah.
Yep, that's fair. Nothing crazy with the rest of Trio's team from what I saw. Eckler and Stafford doing what they should. Any further comments on his team before we move to Marcus?
No, I think Trujillo and I are like very similar teams that have like similar issues. Like we both have an issue somewhere. Mine's my RB2. His is arguably his RB or his wide receiver 3, but it's actually not even that bad, which is why I would say I don't know. Anyway, I don't. Who cares?
I think it's a good conversation. To be honest, I think, to me at least, his biggest issue is his RB1. It's like I think he has two,
that's a fair point.
He has 3 RB2s or maybe low end RB1s, but like you obviously have a very good RB1, and then
Now the best one in my opinion, with McCaffrey out.
in your opinion, sure. I mean, I would personally take Kamara over him in PPR, but
and Barkley out, but yeah, I wouldn't.
Sure. But yeah, like your running back 2 is obviously a lot worse than his. But yeah, either way, your guys' teams are pretty
Unless
similar,
Fournette steps up, that'd be sweet. Because then Fournette could turn into like Chubb.
Yeah, if he did, that'd be huge.
Yeah, which I think is gonna happen probably. But anyway, it's interesting. I agree.
I think the only question I have left on Trio's team before we move on is, this is the second week in a row of Ryan Tannehill outscoring Matt Stafford. Should he be starting Tannehill over Stafford?
No.
No? Okay.
Not in my opinion, at least.
Okay.
What do you think, Tom?
I don't know.
As the resident Lions fan.
Yeah.
Tough, dude. I'm like in like sell mode for the Lions, but actually the reason to agree with you, but I don't know if you were thinking about this, is Galladay's gonna be back soon. He's probably gonna be back next week.
That's a good
and
point.
Stafford sorely misses him. Marvin Jones is not Galladay. It's the classic, like Marvin Jones is an incredibly good complementary receiver. So I think Marvin Jones's value goes up once Galladay's back. And I think Galladay's value goes up, and Stafford's value goes up. So
Marvin Jones is kind of like obviously they have different skill sets, but it's kind of like what Golden Tate was to that team.
Yeah.
Golden Tate can never be a number 1. He can be a great complementary wide receiver.
Yeah, I agree.
Yep.
So, sorry, one other quick thing to point out on his team. Can we talk about depth here? He benched OBJ and Cooper Kupp.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty crazy.
And he was able to benchmark Ingram.
That's ridiculous to me.
Yeah, he has insane depth on his team.
Yeah, he probably is the best depth in the league, but
Yeah, it's definitely arguable.
It's crazy. Yeah, he's got a very good team.
He does.
Very good spread out team.
For sure. All right, let's move to Marcus's team here. So we got Carson Wentz. We talked to him a little bit earlier. Quite a few concerns for him, huh? You guys think he bounces back?
I think he needs a change of scenery.
Already?
I mean,
it's not like 4 years.
Oh, I
years.
understand,
It's
but
4th year. I just think that there's just been way too much things between him and the Eagles fans. There was him like, sure, he led them to the Super Bowl, but then he didn't get the Super Bowl himself. Then he came back, and then it was, well, where the hell's Nick Foles? Where's
Right.
Carson? And then Carson. To me, it's just been so much drama over in Philadelphia, which is weird for Carson Wentz because he's like one of the least dramatic people I feel like you could ever run into. So, as a resident NDSU guy. And
I was gonna say that was gonna be my first jab. Is I can't expect more from an former MDSU player. So meh.
yeah, compared to that one U of M quarterback in the NFL, who was that again? Oh, there isn't one.
Yeah, wait,
There's gonna be one soon.
We're gonna have 2 next
Yeah,
year?
we're gonna have 2.
Wait, drafted higher than yours?
Yes.
There's gonna be Tanner Morgan, future first round.
Yeah,
draft.
we're gonna
Not
Trey
drafted as
Lance.
high as Trey Lance?
Yeah, well, he's gonna be a bust.
Same.
Yeah, but I don't know. I truly just think he needs to not be on Philadelphia.
Yeah,
Sure.
I mean they
My
also
opinion.
don't have Alshon Jeffrey, which I don't think he's the greatest receiver in the world.
Yeah.
but he's out. Joe Enriger is still a rookie, and Deshaun Jackson is not Deshaun Jackson anymore. He's just like a very experienced, kind of fast guy now.
Yeah, but
So-
he does have great tight ends.
Yeah, and Ertz
Ertz
and
and
Goddard.
Goddard are
Yeah.
amazing.
No, I agree.
Very good.
Yeah, but that doesn't. Yeah, that. Yeah, I agree. I think Wentz is like actively bad now. Like he's pretty much he's a QB2, mid QB2 for Superflex. Yeah, I wouldn't be happy starting as my QB1.
No, not at all.
I agree. I think the highlight of Marcus's team is his running backs, who are both solid but not flashy, in my opinion. Josh Jacobs and Chris Carson probably aren't going to get those 40-point weeks unless Jacobs scores 3 touchdowns like he did last week.
Oh, I wouldn't even put them in the same class. I'd rather have Jacobs over Carson every day, man. I know, I think you agree, but
yeah, me too. But
nuts amount of carries.
I mean, Jacobs isn't flashy, but he's like a Zeke Elliott situation where he's just gonna get fed, and he's the clear bell cow. And they want to make him a bell cow because that's always been Gruden's MO. So
sure. I mean, Carson is the bell cow though too.
Yeah,
on his team, they just don't. They're throwing more this year, which is different for the.
It
Seahawks,
is weird. Yeah, that's true.
Marcus's wide receivers are a bit lackluster. John Brown had a good week, good 2 weeks, I guess. I mean, do you guys think he continues this going forward with Josh Allen popping off, or does he kind of
not this good? He's
in?
caught 2 touchdowns. There's no way he keeps that pace up.
Yeah, but I think the target share is reasonable.
Yeah,
averaging 8 targets a game seems about right for a team that likes to throw.
It's pretty high, but could be.
Yeah, I don't know if they'll continue the big throwing presence, but maybe they will.
I think they will. To me, their whole offensive scheme is based off of like Josh Allen kind of being an option quarterback. And because I don't think Josh Allen's a good running quarterback. He just likes to run. So they just like to give him a lot of passing attempts. And so I actually think 8 is about what John Brown's going to get most of the season. And just as a solid like wide receiver 2 on that team with not really that many other weapons.
It's funny you say you don't think he's a good running quarterback. To me, he's like the exact same as Cam Newton. As far as his actual skill sets. He's just big and physical.
Yeah, except for Cam Newton's bigger and physicler. But yeah.
I don't think he's that much bigger.
Every time I watch Josh Allen run, I don't feel like I'm like, oh, wow, he's a running quarterback, is what I'm getting at.
Sure.
He's, I don't know. He's not like a Kyler Murray, Lamar Jackson.
Just kidding.
No reason.
So just I don't think he'll quite get 8. 8 would have put him roughly at 15 last year overall in targets, which seems a bit high to me with Stephon Diggs there. But yeah, I think he'll get some.
Yeah,
but
that's a fair point. Yeah, maybe go down to 7 then.
But
sure.
Either way, I think he's a fine. I mean, I think he's a really good wide receiver 3, maybe a low end wide receiver 2.
Yeah,
going forward.
Yeah, no, I agree. Unfortunately for Marcus, his team has been kind of decimated by injuries at the wide receiver position with Cortland Sutton, as well as AJ Brown. That would really bolster his wide receiver corpse there. So
especially with Tannehill stepping up.
Yeah, exactly. That's a real bummer for him. Kind of on a positive note for his team though, on his bench he has Justin Herbert and Antonio Gibson, who are both pretty high level prospects,
and Dwayne Haskins.
Yep.
And Dwayne Haskins, yeah. I mean, he's got a pretty young team here.
Even Joshua Kelly on his
He
bench.
actually, it makes me, he has to trade one of those quarterbacks now.
Yeah.
Like, that's too many quarterbacks that good.
Who do you trade?
I think you trade Herbert right now, unless you really believe in him.
I do want to point out that he did not start a quarterback in his superflex position.
Oh.
I think that's actually the right call.
It was in this scenario. I think.
I mean, it looks like it because of hindsight, but I think even because Herbert wasn't supposed to start, and then I would take Cortland Sutton over Haskins, legitimately.
But I disagree. But the thing is, you can put Sutton. You can put Sutton as your wide receiver over Allen Lazard. I would start a QB over Allen Lazard.
Yeah, I agree with that.
So I think that's I don't think that's
okay.
Or Anthony Miller.
Yeah, I guess I
would
just
never
trusted
have done
him.
that.
Yeah,
that's
a good point.
To me.
Yeah,
that's pretty bad.
Never mind. I take back everything I said.
Something to monitor going forward.
Dude, I don't want to own any other Bears receivers other than Allen Robinson. By the way, holy fuck.
Everybody. I thought this has been like the last 2 years has been really high on Anthony Miller.
Misguided highness, I feel like.
Do you think it's just a product of QBs?
In fantasy, because of Trubisky.
Yeah.
And then they have to fall back on Foles after him. Like, I don't know.
I think there's no way they don't take a QB in this next year's draft.
Yeah, dude.
Opinion.
Yeah, I have a Bears fan coworker, and he always talks about how it just sucks because they had no options to address the QB position because they had no draft picks, and then
well they did have free agency. They just decided not to sign anybody.
Yeah,
they tried to get Teddy.
They took Foles, but yeah.
Well, sorry, like I still said, they decided not to sign anybody.
If they just would have been more patient and waited for Newton to value to go down, they could have got Newton.
That would have been a big difference.
Even Winston. I mean, Winston signed as
I
a
would
backup.
have Winston too. Yeah.
Yeah,
I agree.
Yep.
There was a lot of great options this last year.
Yep. So anyway.
All right. Any final thoughts on that matchup?
Like
not a whole lot's going on there. I know.
I don't know.
Trujillo's
Who
team
do
is
you
pretty
think?
solid through and through.
I know this is gonna move into the division talk a little bit, so maybe I'll let you. Actually, I'll let you cover that first, and then I'll raise my question.
Sure. Okay. I guess to summarize that division, Trujillo's at 2-0. Matt Magnuson and Marcus both at 1-1, and then I know a big shocker to everyone, Cody Meatball Holla is at 0-2.
Fucking Meatball. So Meatball comes, by the way, to people that listen to K-Fan, because I don't. I thought that there was some guy called on there like Meat Sauce or Meat something, and so that's what my nickname for this week was. So it literally doesn't mean anything related to fantasy football.
It means everything.
You're such a goober.
Yeah.
You're such a
meatball.
CMC will turn to dust.
Is dust.
Is dust. Damn it.
Dust bed open.
You're dust.
Cody, do you have anything specifically on that division? Or I was going to open it up to like the entire league.
Yeah, that's actually what I want to bring up is who do you think finishes higher? Matt Magnuson or Marcus, both being 1-1?
Ooh.
Because that one seems kind of where you...
Mags for sure for me.
I would say the same.
Especially with those two injuries, I think are huge. But
Yeah.
Do you guys still have Mags below Trujillo, though?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay.
Clearly.
I think
Trujillo's the clear winner.
Trujillo's clearly by himself, but then I think Mags is actually in tier by himself as well. Just based on like, okay, the two injuries to AJ Brown and Cortland Sutton are huge, as well as Jonathan Taylor on Matt Magnuson's team playing or having all the carries going forward. So
I think that makes sense to me.
but I mean, do you disagree? Do you?
No,
okay,
no. I agree, but I figured it was worth the conversation.
Sure. So I guess to open it up to kind of close out the thing, let's go through our top 6. Like, who do you guys think are going to make playoffs / get the buys? I'll start with you, Tom.
Well, I think to me, it's probably goes Matt Trujillo in division number 1, which, by the way, why didn't we ever actually come up with cool division names? Can you change those in Sleeper?
Yeah, we should try.
Because division 1, 2, and 3 is a bit lackluster.
A little bit, yeah.
As I'm thinking about this for the first time. Trujillo wins that division, and then you win the division. I take wild card in division number 2, and then Fowler and oh shit,
You have Adam, right?
this is I did
have
say
Adam.
So, and I forgot. Yeah,
Yep,
I guess it is like it's like that's tough. That's where it's interesting. I mean, I think Adam wins the division, or at least gets in through points 4. That's the only interesting division to me, actually.
Yeah, I think that's by far the most interesting division. I think ours is kind of interesting too, but yeah, what do you think, Cody?
So I think you get a bye. I think Matt Trujillo will clearly get a bye.
Clearly.
I think.
Oh,
clearly.
because of his record being better?
like Adam or Jake?
Yeah.
Why?
I think he'll have. I think the fact that his competition in his division isn't going to be nearly as close. I think it's the fact that when I look at Ben Fowler, Adam, and Jake, I could see people taking one here, one there, and having a lot of 1-1 splits with other guys rather than 2-0s.
Sure.
Where Trujillo gets me for 2 weeks, that's an automatic 2 wins.
Right.
And he hasn't even played me yet. And then he's already beaten Marcus and Mags, I think, each once. I don't know. I think he's got a very easy path to a bye.
Yeah, that's sure. It's funny you say that because, like, obviously I have stake in this debate because it's unfortunate. The only reason he's clearly going to win the bye is because of the division I'm in. Otherwise, it would be very neck and neck. I think it would be like towards the end.
Based on your teams.
Right, because I'm going to automatically lose 2 games to you essentially, and then the rest of our division is good.
I actually don't know if that's true. I think after the fact that I won the first game, I think our matchups are really close. Like, I wouldn't have been shocked at all if you took one game off me.
Right, but yeah. Sure.
Sorry,
I shouldn't have said automatic.
Because your team actually is good.
It is, but the point is that we have to play against Barber and Laramie, which are actually good teams.
Yeah, they're not bad for sure.
But then, he gets a freebie against Cody and doesn't have a caliber team like you in the same division. So it just kind of sucks for my position.
To be fair, I think I put Laramie as like the second worst team in the league right now.
Oh, I don't think
I disagree with that.
I think it's definitely Mike.
No.
You think Mike's way lower? You think Mike, when he gets healthy, is lower?
Yeah, I think Laramie's team is not that bad.
No, it isn't.
I mean, dude, Laramie's team is so far off for 2 weeks is 101 points ahead of Mike.
I'm just saying, I don't know. I just look at his team and I guess I just don't see it.
Who on Mike's team do you want to start?
Over?
And to me, it's Chris Godwin and Kenny Galladay.
Yep.
Compared to on Laramie's team, I like Joe Mixon, I like Matt Ryan, I like Miles Sanders. I don't mind Michael Gallup. I like Mark Andrews. I like Jared Goff.
I like Monty.
I think Monty's fine. I think honestly,
maybe that's maybe you're right.
To me, Laramie's team is honestly great through and through, other than receivers.
Yeah,
which is really it's a struggle. But like I think his team is actually pretty solid.
And he's been benching Robbie Anderson, which is kind of weird. Keep in mind.
No,
Yeah,
that's
and Noah
actually a decent point.
Yeah, exactly. He's no fan too, but
So
I don't know. I don't think I think Laramie's team is actually middle of the road. I think he's kind of a dark horse for playoffs, personally.
Yeah, I don't think he'll make playoffs.
he won't make playoffs.
Yeah.
Because of our division again.
I don't know. Okay, so let's go through it. So we got
So-
me and Trujillo buys, right?
Yep.
Do we all agree on that?
Yep. And then the division winner.
And
comes
then
next.
okay, so let's say, do we all agree that both O'Brien and Adam are probably gonna make it?
Both?
Yeah.
I don't think both will.
Really.
Nope.
I don't know. I think that Fowler, Adam, and O'Brien are like really close.
Yeah, I think there is a scenario to me where either Adam or Jake doesn't make it.
I mean, there's a scenario, but I still think they both will make it. I mean, is it a likely scenario?
Yeah, I guess with Barkley, it is tough because with Barkley out, Fowler's next guy is Tevin Coleman, who is luckily better value because of Mostert being out. But
Also, they just need to make sure that like Adam or Jake have to outscore either Ben Fowler and Eric Barber. Barber's still got a pretty good team.
You think Barber's team is better than Laramie's team? No way, dude. No way.
I don't know.
I guess Tom. What do you think? I
think it's close. I don't think it's as bad as you're making it out to be.
I don't want to be.
I think Bart.
But-
I don't want to be a skadoosh bag, but I don't know why we're even talking about it. It doesn't matter. I'm sorry.
Sure.
I don't know. I don't think Barber. I think Barber's team last year is bolstered by the Patriots defense, and I think Laramie's team has every good position other than wide receivers.
Yeah, but the wide receivers are so bad.
Yeah, but Barber has Devontae Adams end of list.
Marvin Jones isn't bad.
As your
Tyler Boyd isn't bad.
as your wide receiver too.
CeeDee Lamb isn't bad. Like, I don't know. Marvin Jones is a wide
Okay,
receiver
okay,
too. Isn't,
okay.
Comparing it to where Laramie's at is significantly better. Than
Okay, can we compare Marvin Jones as a wide receiver 2 to Joe Mixon as a running back 2? Let's compare those two because that's what's comparable.
Okay, so you're saying compare Sony Michel to
Yeah, because Sony Michel is also not
or
good.
Devonta Freeman if he does actually get signed.
Sure, if Devonta Freeman gets signed, it's close. It doesn't matter. Yeah, we can move on.
Sure.
We can move on. Yeah,
I'm not. Yeah.
This probably doesn't matter, but
Regardless, if the original question, there are 3 clear playoff teams, and then like 5 teams that could make playoffs after that'll make
I
up
would
the
agree
remaining
with
3,
that.
which is great. It's
so
just like last
Then
year.
do we have any teams that won't make playoffs for sure besides me?
you and Mike, in my opinion,
And then Laramie and Eric.
I still don't think Laramie is that. I would take Laramie's team over Barber's personally.
How do Laramie or Eric get into the playoffs?
Points.
It's points 4.
But they're not going to be better than me. I'm going to get them with
No,
points
but there's
more than
2
likely.
spots for points 4.
I could be. I can't remember how
Isn't
we
it
did.
one record, 1 points 4?
I
That's
think
what
so. I think so.
So I thought.
So I think you could make it on
on
record.
record.
Yeah,
Easily.
you can have because
Yeah,
we've
that's
had this happen where you have 3 teams in one division make playoffs.
Yeah,
it can
So-
happen.
I agree. I think your team is definitely going to make it based on either record or points. Whatever the highest
Right.
seed is, you'll probably be that seed. But like Laramie's team and Barber's team so far, based on Devonta Adams' Week 1 performance, like they're not that bad. Like
Okay, maybe I'm
realistically,
just being,
they're all
I
pretty
think I might
similar.
be underrating them.
But I really do think that Adam and Jake are both, in my opinion, locks. Just because I think their teams are both so good. Maybe Fowler's team if Aaron Jones
Yeah.
is the RB1.
Yeah, I like Jake's team above both of those teams for sure. Looking at Adams, I like Adams' team above them. Yeah. I still think even without Saquon, I might even like Fowler's team. I can't say that with 100%.
His team's not bad.
It's
but
just
his team
funny.
doesn't have depth.
We're talking about Jake's team because like every one of his players relative to last year went down.
Yeah, but his team was good last year.
Yeah, but
I know it was good, but it's like he's a fringe playoff team. I don't think he's guaranteed by any means.
I think he'll be a playoff
Like-
team. I'll take that bet if you want. I mean, like,
Yeah, I mean, I do think he's going to be a playoff team. I don't think he's a guarantee. I actually think there is a world where Fowler and Adam both go over him. Like, actually. I don't know. I would say like a 30% chance, but that's reasonable to me. So we'd have to make a 3-1 bet on that.
yeah.
3-1
both
dollar
of
bet.
them end above him.
Yeah, like 3-1.
I wouldn't bet that, but
It's just like Rodgers down, Connor down,
Rodgers
Gurley
is
down.
not down.
Rodgers fine.
is
I think
not
he's
down.
just aging and like,
he's the RB.
and he doesn't have. It's gonna be
Rodgers
interesting to
is
see
better
if
than last
Adams
year.
sees time out consistently. Rodgers is not that good of a fantasy quarterback. So I think he's very Adams dependent. And then Connor, like I said, Connor down, Gurley down from last year.
I don't.
Hilton getting older and Campbell taking over.
To me at least, it's
I don't think Campbell's taken over Hilton. By the way, I don't know where you've gotten that from. I mean, to me, it's like a little bit of production, but Hilton still gets the targets.
Hilton has 78 or 81 yards this year.
Yeah, it's 2 games.
And-
He's not over them.
but the thing
No,
is,
but I'm saying relative to last year.
Jake's team is so deep that it doesn't matter. Like,
Yeah.
okay, take out Hilton, put in Jarvis Landry. We all agree he's
Yeah.
good, right?
Yep.
Put in Will Fuller.
I
Yeah.
agree.
He's
yeah.
clearly the number.
Julian
Julian
Edelman.
Edelman. Like,
Yeah.
there is. I mean, he has Dallas he has
That's
tons
true.
of players.
Le'Veon
I mean,
Bell's also
Le'Veon
an
Bell's in the
injury.
IR. Yeah,
Yeah.
like you said. I mean,
Yeah.
I think Jake's team is so deep, and given they're all like extreme veterans, but I
Right.
think they're all like the mid to low wide receiver 2 RB2 range.
Yeah.
Where like he's gonna have good players. I don't think he'll be the best team, but I think he'll definitely make
That's fair.
playoffs. Like he's
Yeah.
pretty low. He's a very low risk team in my opinion.
Yeah, that's a good point.
But
I would rather have Adams' team though.
for Dynasty for sure.
Yeah.
For this year,
Yeah,
I would
for
rather have
Dynasty.
Jake's team.
Yeah, it's just I don't know.
Dynasty, I don't think it's close. For this year, I would take Jake's team. Obviously, I did. But
Yeah. Oh, that's tough. I'd be willing to do a $2-to-$1 bet on Adam over Obi in seed.
we already made
You
a
already made the
1-to-1
division,
bet.
Yeah.
Dang
You made
it.
a 1-to-1.
Oh, did we?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I bet Jake would win the division.
Oh, that's right. That's right. Yeah. Okay, let's do 2-to-1 too.
So many bets.
All right. I think that's about all we had on Sleeper. Any final thoughts, guys, on the league? On any players for that?
Nope. We'll see you all next year.
I'll see you
At
guys.
least with my team.
I'll see you guys in the championship. Week 1 playoffs.
Week 1 play. Yeah. Week 1 playoffs. Then Sam will see you next year.
Yeah. It was fun.
All right. Well, thanks for listening. I appreciate it, and we'll see you next Wednesday. Is when we'll upload next Wednesday. Yeah. 'Cause that gives you a day.
Oh yeah.
You mean tomorrow?
Well, no, because then if you upload it tomorrow, then we'll upload the next episode next Wednesday. So we'll do it on Tuesday.
Is this the light banter phase?